just like you. The world awaits to receive you.
Hide the money, y'all. There's poor people around.
I could not be here breathing and be comfortable if I was really as bad as they was making it. You know, nobody could be around me. So for me to be this calm, I must have some kind of inner peace. And my inner peace is knowing that once everybody take the time to really see what type of person I am, you'd be surprised that I stuck around this long. I have to make the life that I do live as happy as I can and try to do the best with what I have. You know, live the best life I can live, be as happy as I can be. Nothing is perfect for anybody. I don't know.
Boys, I swear, I think I figured it out. You know why they don't want us redneck brothers and sisters and the hood brothers and sisters getting along? You know why? Because we'd be unstoppable. I'm telling you right now, we would shut shit down.
Yes, I haven't started my live like that in a while. We will shut shit down. Blessings, blessings. Uncensored Enlightenment Talk family. You're here with your host, Grace Levi. Tonight, we have an amazing broadcast lined up for you guys. Shout out to the South Side. You know what we do. You know I love you guys, and I'm always on it. We will be going over some things that have been happening in Harvey. We have an amazing guest today, and we're going to be bringing him on the screen, Mr. Amir Shakur. Give me 1 second though. Before we do that, I want to say thank you guys for being with me. Thank you guys for going through the roller coaster that you have been seeing online. One of the most important things I want to stress to you guys is mental health. We're going to be talking about a wide range of things today. We're going to be talking about the mess. We're going to talk about the past, the present, the current, and some ways of how to fix it, and also a call to action. So without further ado, we're going to bring Mr. Amir on the stage. Blessings, blessings. Welcome, Amir.
Peace, Queen. Grace Levi. Blessings to you. Blessings to you. Thanks for having me.
Thank you for being here. I appreciate you.
For sure.
We are all in the struggle. So basically, what we're going to do, we're just going to have a casual conversation kind of flow. I got a lineup. You know, there's been a lot going on in Harvey. I want to start off by saying sorry for all of the things that you have been going through. One, as an activist, it's not easy to be in that position. That's this point blank period, putting yourself out there. But to be faced with what you have been faced with, the citizens of Harvey, Thornton, and Dalton, is pretty egregious. So I'm glad that you have recovered. And I just wanted to say, keep up the good work, okay? Because right after that tremendous incident, you was right back on the scene. So I do want to say, keep it up.
Yeah, well, I appreciate you. And, you know, the work never stops. And, you know, if that's what we called to do, that's what we called to do. You know what I mean?
Yeah. So we're not going to go into all the details of what happened that night. Was it the 14th of July? Was that the date?
July 14th is correct.
Yeah, it sticks out like it's a holiday at this point. It's almost a month from that date. But what I want to do is talk to the audience about your original interaction with Jedidiah. How did you meet Jedidiah? How did this tension between you and God this occur? And then we're going to kind of flow into some other things. I have a video that I want to just pop on the screen. So I'm going to let you talk about that, and then we're going to play a little bit of it, and then you can just tell us kind of what's going on. Okay?
Okay.
So you know how people do. They always recording stuff and doxing people. So I don't know if you knew that this was recorded, but this was from Truth Hurts. Do you know who channel this is?
No, but she probably took it from a video off of one of my old YouTubes back from like 7-8 years ago.
Okay. Was this something that you posted or?
Yeah, I actually posted the count. It might have been from his page as well, but I actually shared it. So.
Okay. So before we play the clips, could you give us a brief description of what's going on here?
Yeah. So what's happening at this is right in the height of Kanika Jenkins, and now Jed and his group, which is the Freedom Fighters, are focusing on Samaje Crosby, who was a 17-year-old month child who was found under a couch, murdered in Joliet, Illinois. So I was working with the family to try to bring resolution and some kind of prosecution to the folks who committed this, which, was a struggle. And we had just gotten to the point to where, as we had gotten the coroner's, I had gotten me and my team, I should say, and the action committee, which was put together, had gotten the coroner's report released, and we were moving this case of this baby, and we were trying to get some of the folks who were around last seen the baby. We were trying to get them to go down to the detectives, and they were, to kind of give them a narrative and just try to help bring resolution to the case. The murder, the last thing I'm gonna say about it, I'm gonna let you play that video. The murder of this child could have possibly been at least about 4 or 5 people in the home who last saw the baby. And it never got resolved. And to date, it's an unresolved murder.
Okay. So I think before I play the mess, because you have went into detail about that case, let me show the audience. Oops, hold on one second. I do apologize. Let me show the audience the actual news broadcast about this case, because this case was very serious, and this case went on at the same time as the Kanika Jenkins case. So I saw this case, but I really didn't hone in on it because the Kanika Jenkins case was so big. But there's a lot that we have to unpack as a community outside of Jedidiah and outside of, what you and him went through. And we're just going to watch this, and then we're going to dig into this too as well.
WGN investigates the lack of justice for one of our area's youngest homicide victims.
It has now been more than 4 years since a young girl who could barely walk went missing, only to be found dead inside her own home. Investigative reporter Ben Bradley has more on the ongoing quest to find her killer.
Her name is Samaje Crosby.
A young mother's plea for help finding her missing toddler.
If anyone have any information or seen my baby, can you please do right by my baby and by me, and just let my baby go and just bring her home.
For 30 hours, police, the public, and Samaje's own family searched Joliet Township. It was a search that ultimately led them back to the small, squalid rental home and this couch where the 17-month-old child was stuffed inside. She had died by asphyxiation.
This was no home for a child in Illinois, and what happened to this little girl was tragic, but preventable.
J. Paul D'Aratani is the attorney fighting for Samaje in death because he says too few fought to protect her in life.
I remember this as one of the worst tragedies I've seen. I mean, no little girl should be stuffed under a couch and suffocated until she dies.
His lawsuit names the Illinois Department of Children and Family Services, as well as a private family service agency, and accuses them of failing this child. There were several investigations into allegations of abuse and neglect at the home. A DCFS caseworker even visited hours before Samaje was reported missing.
There were so many warnings to Children's Home and Aid and to DCFS, frankly, that this child was in danger. The floor was disgusting. There were roaches on the wall. The place was condemnable, and they knew it and should have known it. The child was sleeping on the floor on a dirty mattress. There were people in and out of that home, 18 people at different times.
In other words, clues at
the so I'm going to stop right here. Now, I played this clip because I wanted you guys to know the severity of this case. And one of the things that I heard Amir say is that he went forward in his advocacy actions and get the coronary report done, released, right?
Right.
So that says a lot to me, because I want the residents and the viewers to understand what real advocacy looks like. It's not always being out there and just protesting, yelling, walking. It is really about putting in paperwork, understanding the system, and getting some things done systematically. So I want the audience to get a deep, feeling for this. Not only that you went the proper route to try to get, some things open to the public, a true investigation, but also the concept of if you see something, say something, because that's some of the stuff we're going to talk about today, the function in our community, not only within our household, not that, but just, we're going to talk about the advocacy scene, but seeing something and saying something. So with that being said, is there anything else that you want to add to this particular situation? Because I'm going to go later on in the broadcast. I'm going to go do a deep dive into this and Jedidiah's role as part some of the things that I saw. But is there anything that you want to portray to the residents about being an advocate? The steps that you need to take, what to look for, those type of stuff.
Well, you know what, and I appreciate you. That's a great question, Grace. And you have it, you really have it. Your narrative is correct. I mean, advocacy is not standing in front of a microphone and claiming that, hey, see me, watch me, listen to me. Sometimes, and a lot of times it's busy work, it's thankless work, it's behind the scenes. And, people have to understand that, I've had some of the biggest civil rights cases in America. I had Amir A.H, which I led down in Cleveland, Ohio, Manning, South Carolina. We did the Stinney case, which is the youngest person executed in U.S. history. And, we overturned that in Manning, South Carolina, fighting against Nikki Haley. I fought against governors. My thing is all the time and every time, it really was never about me. Even in the case of Tamir and Samaje, we wanted to envelop the public. We wanted to make sure that the public knew, who the focus was. And it wasn't me. It was that baby in Samaje's case, because, I mean, how could you not look at a beautiful baby and be empowered and be impassioned to try to find change for that, if that makes sense?
Exactly. And that's doing it a systematic way and really looking at the system and opening it up for people to be able to get some things done. So, as what we saw, there was a lawsuit filed, and you clarified that for me. That was not just a lawyer; it was the state under the father.
Yeah, it was the father suing the Department of Children and Family Services, which did a very, the baby should have been protected. Samaje had other siblings, and you saw from this report the dirty, filthy conditions of the house. And, these folks were indigent to the level of, being poor and indigent does not disqualify you from keeping kids or having kids. But the bottom line is, they could have done more by the way of resources to make sure these children were protected in the presence of these conditions, if that makes sense.
Okay, yeah, exactly. Now I have to throw this in there because towards the end of this report, something tragic happened. Do you know? Have you heard anything about this? Shortly after the house was actually burnt down, I'm going to play this little part for the audience.
Yeah.
Hours after Samaje's funeral, the home where she lived and died was burnt to the ground in a fire that was intentionally set. Will County authorities have said little in the 4 years since the toddler's death. They refused to release key records, including the autopsy, citing an ongoing investigation. Even the civil lawsuit, which may shed light on how Samaje's young life was cut short, has been slow to make its way through the court.
Okay, so do you know anything about? I'm just gonna throw that out there because a lot of weird things happen with certain people around. I'm not throwing that out there, but this is pretty wild.
Right. It's definitely a tragic situation all the way around. So it wasn't towards the end. It was actually right after Samaje was murdered, and during the core of the struggle on the ground, the house turns up burning down, and it was believed that it was done intentionally to hide evidence of the child. The authorities closed the house down after the murder because it was a murder scene, but the family members were able to still come and go and get things up until a certain point. And then once they did that, then the authorities shut the house down, and they took a lot of the things, the furniture, the couch that Samaje was found under. They took those things and for investigative purposes. But in the midst of all of that, within a week after that, the house was burnt down. So, we've always believed, and I agree with the authorities, that it was done intentionally.
Okay, so I just wanted to bring that up to the audience because we've been going through a lot in this last year of just crazy things happening. So I did want to highlight that something kind of really out of pocket happened with this case, and we're going to keep on talking about it because, as you say, there's still more going on with the investigation after the lawsuit settlement.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, it's never been resolved, and I believe that the Joliet police did a horrible job with the investigation, and I can only talk from my opinion. I'm not saying that, I know that legally there's a lot of things, and we were talking to the investigators. The head investigator, his name's RJ, and I mean, it just seemed like they didn't do enough early on, within the first 24, 48 hours or that first few days. It's very critical that you preserve evidence, that you do things, you really start interviewing people, and a lot of key witnesses weren't even interviewed within that point in time. And here's the other thing, and I'm gonna just turn it back over to you, Grace. Within the first like 2 to 3 days, I think it was the second day, the baby was still missing. It wasn't past the third day, I don't believe, to where the body was found, but there was like search parties and everything within a perimeter radius of the house. And come to find out, with all of these search parties and everything, the baby was right in the house, and the body was decomposed. It was found under the couch, and the body even had roaches, because the house was roach infested, but roaches were feeding off the carcass of this baby. So when you say serious case, it's definitely a very tragic and disheartening case.
So what I'm going to do later on in the future, we're going to keep our eye if there's any more developments, and I'll definitely be in contact with you. So this goes into what we were talking about, highlighting the dysfunction in our community, dysfunctional behavior, enabling dysfunctional behavior, because I do think that a lot of the things that was happening around that investigation, we're not just talking about the government, but just us as people having a controversy, it takes away from us actually thinking properly, actually pushing. And it was good that you pushed to get the coronary reports. That's why I really commend you, because in the midst of chaos, it's really hard to like focus in. So with that concept of dysfunctional behavior, we're going to bring this clip up of Jedidiah and your encounter with him and some of the things that you were saying, because I want the audience to hear some things. And they sound remarkably familiar to what's going on now and what has been repeated when Jedidiah is involved. Okay, so I want you guys to understand more of the foundational thinking of Amir, because people make it seem like, oh, you're just hating on Jedidiah, this, that, and the third. So that's why I wanted you to go into it a little bit about the seriousness of that case and what was going on around it. And now we're just going to play a little bit of this, and then you could kind of just tell us what's going on.
Okay.
I hadn't seen you, but let me just say this, Jedidiah. Nothing that I said was wrong. Go back and play the tape. Have your people go back and play the tape. You said that was a private meeting between me and you were not supposed to bring Latoya because you never mentioned that. That's in the conversation.
Did we explain that to you at the day? I told you that it was a private meeting.
No. It was between me and you.
Okay, can
he ask you a question? Were you and him supposed to team up or anything? How did this happen?
So what happened was, you had the mother, you had the father, who was locked up in jail during the time the baby was murdered. The mother was she was kind of going through the tragic circumstances, as you'd understand that any mother would. So the stepmother called. This is the godmother. I'm sorry, the godmother. Her name was Latoya. Called Jedidiah and his team from Rosemont to get involved, because she saw them being involved with the Kanika Jenkins situation. And so my thing was, he had asked for a meeting, and I said, look, I can't do anything. I'm not the family. You have to talk to the family. If they accept you, then that's fine. But, I as an activist can't allow you to be participate. And the other thing was there was questions with the Kanika Jenkins thing with raising money and funds, and the mom with Teresa Martin was upset. And I said, you know what? Don't make this a circus like that. And that's what you're doing. And that was where we were at in the conversation.
Okay, that's when things started to be going left. So he never really had direct interactions with the family yet. He was coming in to talk to you guys, and
Yeah, he wanted to participate, and the narrative was that I was keeping him out, and he started taking liberties as in the godmom has no legal standing in the estate of this baby. So it became a level of confusion. He started going and talking to the detectives, and he claimed like he does, and even in Dalton, that this case was nowhere till he got involved, and he brought national attention to it. And I mean, and I'm telling him, I'm like, look, you're coming in with the wrong spirit. Your narrative is all wrong. And this is the conversation that we're having here.
exactly. Hold on one second. As you say that, we're gonna get right back to this conversation. I think I have that clip where he kind of go off on them for not doing what they supposed to do, and it sounds like the same MO coming into a situation. And I mean, the partnership, usually what he does, he doesn't jump in to partner with certain people. I think he fell back, but what I think where you didn't accept him, that became an issue because a lot of information that other people have, once it's out there, I think it becomes circumvented into his camp, and then it is kind of like, I did this. I'm the superstar. So this is some of the dysfunction that was starting to happen around the Samaja case. I want you guys to kind of get a deep idea. Now listen to this. Let's play this, because I think this is a clip where Jedidiah was going off a little bit about the case.
All these news articles and all these interviews is because they know my work, and they know that I'm going to consistently show up. And when I show up, I don't look for the news. The news look for me. Okay, but now at this place, I'm showing it on my own phone. We're showing it on our own phones. We are not coming to get attention. We came to bring attention. And to the people of Joliet, to Erica Lindsay, to the action team, we did not know who everybody was. So y'all say, well, did everybody get an announcement in Joliet? First of all, let me make this clear. Just because you live in the same city does not mean that you care any more or any less about this baby getting justice than I do because I live in another geographical location. That is pure ignorance that comes out of people not being critical when they thinking, educated, or understanding the bigger picture.
All right, we're gonna start right here, and I'm gonna ask the audience: does this not sound familiar? And as well, you're Amir, you already know. Like as we watch, this is just deja vu. It's the same redundant type of protocol, where I bring the light, and this is what we're doing. And I want people to understand this. Amir, how was you able to get the coronary report released?
Well, we had to do consecutive. We had to do basically. We pressured the coroner. I mean, I sent letters, almost not to the form of a cease and desist, but to support, because they couldn't declare this baby a homicide, or they couldn't declare it a homicide until the coroner's report was released. So it was holding up everything. The investigators couldn't officially activate until the coroner's report was released. So so we pressured the coroner through media and through press conferences and letters of public opinion, that the narrative is, listen, you guys have got to do your job, and there's no reason for you after this baby's death to hold up this report. And they did. They actually did. And I was surprised that they did, considering the fact of, but I think the court of public opinion sometimes in these cases weighs further, and they just didn't want the negativity coming towards their office, right?
Now I'm highlighting that because that was a really good angle for you to come in as someone from the outside. Did you ever go in and talk to the detective or anything like that?
Yeah, I mean, I talked to the detectives. We sat in, and the detectives were a critical part of this, but there was an open dialogue with the detectives on the ground, because we were trying to see how we could support the criminal justice aspect of it to bring these people to justice who committed the atrocity of murdering this baby. So all of that was really part of the dialogue, and unfortunately, it just didn't happen because I mean they allowed it to become a cold case. And even in Jedidiah's point, and I'm not saying he's the main reason, I'm saying that he brought a lot of confusion and it delayed things. And again, right now it's a cold case. It's tragic, but yeah, he definitely brought a lot of confusion.
Yeah, that's what I was trying to figure out. Just having the consent to do certain things, and they were talking to you. But I will understand from an investigative perspective, if you got 2 or 3 people coming to you about the same thing, and I think that's what tends to be an issue with the advocacy thing, where people overlap the same thing, and it's just so much to be done that becomes an issue as well. So I'm highlighting these things because if y'all hear, it's the same concepts that's happened in Dalton, happened in Thornton, happened in Harvey. You see what I'm saying? So it's looking like we're overlapping the same thing, and this is for advocates too. If you're out there and you want to advocate, you should pay attention to everything that's going around and try to be less controversial as possible. This is about community building too. Less controversial as possible, using your strength and move forward in that particular aspect. We have to have advocacy in the Black community. To have more than one person advocate for something is not a bad idea. So I want people to not say like, oh, it was just supposed to be Amir. No, but it was supposed to be some confusion, some line of respect, some line, okay, you're doing this, okay, I'm doing this, because we do need that. So with that goes to say, I'm gonna play a little bit more, and then I want you to talk about identifying some signs of dysfunction and how we enable it, how you it's been happening here in Harvey, this situation. Let's play a little bit more, and then we'll let the audience, don't worry audience, we're gonna have a little long live tonight because I'm gonna go through these videos, just me and you. I got a few of Jedidiah acting up.
Can I speak, sir? Can we talk? Did not say to you when you showed up at Starbucks, and I did not know that Latoya was going to want to be there. And once I told her that it was a meeting and she said she wanted to come, how could I then refuse the one who called me to come to a meeting? And why would it need to be private? Did I say that to you?
So this is what I'm going to do, because I think you're proven. Did you say what?
Did I say that to you? Why would I brought her from a meeting and she's the one that called me, and I didn't even know that she was going to want to come, and she came. And
you should have told me. If you would have told me you were having a meeting and bringing Latoya, I would have brought James Crosby if he was available.
Wait a minute. Hold on.
Now, so this right here, I'm highlighting this because this, not to say, is a thin line between, how can I say, putting things out there and things just being, like a distraction. Do you think like these type of things are good for our community when we take it to the internet like this? Because I know some people are feeling indifferent about what we're doing as well. Do you think it's a good or a bad thing? And then
yeah. So when you have provocative minded people and they bring a level of confusion, the first thing that you have to do is you have to break down those public narratives that they are dispelling out there, right? You have to break it down so people will start seeing the contrast and understanding what it is. So on this particular occasion, he was saying a narrative online, and I said, hey, why don't you, if you're going to talk about this thing, why don't we do it together so we can make sure that truth is involved here? And that's when he brought me in, and that's when I started to correct him and then the line of questions, if he wanted to do a meeting, he wanted this person involved, and I'm like, it's, first of all, you have no standing. When I got involved, the family, I asked the father if I can get involved and if he would give me permission to assist with the criminal justice experience that I had. And the thing is that, again, as we were navigating, my thing here was try to dispel a lot of the rumors in the most public sense necessary. And sometimes it looks like it's messy, but at the same time, it's very necessary, if that makes sense.
Exactly. It's a double-edged sword because at that time it seemed a little messy, but again, we're coming back 8 years later. Is how many years ago this was?
Yeah, this was 2014, I believe. I have to check that date of
Oh my
somebody.
God, almost 8, 9 years ago. Time flew, and this is around the time of Kanika Jenkins. So, our audience, we're going to be going into this. I have a few clips to show of what happened to Miss Samaja, how the case got a little crazy, and I also have a clip of one of his old affiliates who came out and had some issues with Jedidiah. So, with that being said, one of the things that we wanted to highlight, just as far as a topic, enabling dysfunctional behavior in our community. How do you think Jedidiah behavior was enabled? Like, how did it get like this?
Hmm. Well, from to something that you said earlier, and that I've said many times, is that the dysfunctional behavior is caused by the the ability or inability to want to really promote advocacy the right way. You're not the nucleus of this cause. If it's a loved one, a mother or a family member, they have to be the face of it. It's not the lawyers or the attorneys. We pulled the attorneys, I shouldn't say the name of the attorney, but we pulled the attorney off of Tamir's case because they were doing too much and they were saying too much, and they didn't let the mother have a voice. So myself and the mother, I said, we have to put you back in the middle of this because the people want to hear from you. They will support you. They will be empowered by you and your voice as the mother, not the attorneys. Same thing for the advocacy. When they start doing too much, it almost feels like, it becomes more provocative. And we see the historical lessons of Jesse Jackson and Reverend Sharpton. And and I'm not, it's not a takedown of them, but the tactics for me is not what I would do in most of these cases, and they become the nucleus of the cases. And I don't think that that's ever a good remedy for advocacy.
Exactly, because it's not only about the inside that we have to. I mean, what we're doing as the case going on is about the outcome, and I think people are not looking for the direct outcome. They're literally just getting caught in the flow of things. Things are happening. You see what I'm saying? So, I mean, my idea of one of the reasons why I think it got this bad, I'm gonna not only, you know, blame Jedediah, I gotta blame the people too. Us not doing our due diligence, leading with just emotions, seeing something that sounds nice. Half time don't make sense, but it just sounds good. It's something about the gift of gab. And I think us as people need to realize that that's our downfall as well, because we don't only have activists that's acting like, this, but we have elected officials that's out there not doing their jobs, blatantly taking money. We have a crazy president. So these things don't just happen with just that person. I think we give a lot of energy as well to those people because of the pizzazz, and as well as us not doing our due diligence. So this is one of the things I want to highlight to the audience now. The last video that I did, we had the letter constructed with the DOJ. So I forgot to ask you for your permission to put your name on it so they could call you, about a certain section.
You got it. You got
But
it.
yeah, with that goes to say, when you have people pretending to be a certain role or saying that there's certain type of people, it is on us to do our due diligence. And one of the things that I heard an advancement in his tactics, Jedidiah, this time, is that he's an investigator. So what do you say about that?
You know what? So in every event, in every turn, he reinvents himself, and the reinvention is maybe something that he was missing the last time. So he reinvents it because he looks back at the steps in a strategic way, and then he picks up on the areas that he misses. So now he's a investigative journalist of some type, and and a reporter and all of this, and and those are the things that I know I went to school for this. You know, I'm actually a journalist. I went to school for criminal justice, you know, and I don't know where he gets these ideas from, but I know he does watch the scene and watch people very closely. So, you know, with any con, I'm going to go so far as to say that what they do is they automatically morph themselves into something that they should not be, or something that they figure may empower them for the days ahead. So when he got to, by the time he got down in Dalton, I think he perfected a lot of this scam, and he became what he was missing in the years past, if that makes sense.
Mm-hmm. And I'm gonna have to put that too on the public officials too, because there's a lot of public officials who actually backed him, and he's around calling himself the DOJ, an investigator.
That's
You
right.
know, so that's very dangerous. That's one. That's fraud. One, impersonating an officer and a detective, because you need to have a license. Also, I want you guys to know, one of the things to actually be a private investigator, you have
Yes.
to you have to have a mental health check as well.
Yeah.
Okay. So I just want to give that to y'all, and just know that it's certain qualifications. I want to highlight that. We're going to go into that because on Friday I got some more to do, because people still been coming to my page messing with me, and I told them if they keep coming, I'm going to keep pushing, and all I'm going to do is expose the wrong, because we have right to expose what is not right. We have someone in the Black community who is saying they are an investigator. So that is something that's reportable. We have someone who said that they are the DOJ. That's something that is reportable. So with that goes to say, I talk about us doing our due diligence, and now we got to talk about the administration, the government. You know, how do you feel about these elected officials teaming up some way somehow with him?
Yeah, I think it's a huge mistake. You know, here's the thing, you know, public officials, when we platform people, we really have to be careful about it. I mean, you know, you mentioned about being an investigator and having the right certification. You know, you have to have a mental health check, you know, a background check. What about that? So, you know, if you are a public official, it is your duty before you hire a city attorney, that person has to be vetted. He has to be voted upon and agreed upon. Maybe if there's questions with the trustees, you know, the same thing if we are outlining and giving some of these folks, like Jedidiah, they gave him a platform in some of the communities, and I think it was just a tragic mistake, because I can guarantee you, I mean, were they aware of his mental health history? And it's known. It's not known. Were they aware of his criminal record? I mean, he's had several criminal entanglements with law enforcement. One was impersonating a police officer. You know, another one was, you know, when he got into a public dispute with the police. I mean, but it's been multiple.
Face. Back up. Okay, so this is not his first time impersonating the police. When did he impersonate a police
No,
officer?
he was literally one of his first charges was he was literally prosecuted out of Chicago for impersonating a police. And I think what they did was they got that record removed, but it's out there and it's there. I think it, you know, it might have been sealed, but I know when we first exposed Jedidiah, when he had the Freedom Fighters, that was one of the things that I and went into the background and I pulled out, and it was out there. So it is out there. You can't find it, but that was one of his early charges. There's several other charges that he has even today that you can go back and look at.
Yeah, I've been trying to get access to Cook County records, but my databases that I use, you know, they can pay or go to each database and get them to remove his past. So I've noticed that a lot of the ones that I've tried to use, his past is removed. So with that goes to say, this may not be his first time saying that he is an officer of the law, but it really shocks me because he said it a lot. He said it a lot in his lives, and I know Conscious probably has these videos and Shay where he says that, you know, I'm going to the FBI office, I'm going here, I'm going there.
Right. And in the last thing, I'm sorry, Grace, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
And the last part about that is if you look at when someone is conning or a con artist or a scammer, the narrative is abstract. So he says, I was called into Dalton by the DOJ. And then he says the DOJ has a lot of departments. So, so the thing is that he goes about this in such a way that if someone were to try to investigate it or ask questions, he say, "Oh yeah, I worked at this department in the DOJ, or I worked at that department." When again, this is a way of concealing the scam, concealing the con. I don't believe that, my personal opinion is that he was never a part of the DOJ. Maybe at best, maybe he knows someone who works there, but I mean, even at best, if they have aligned themselves with somebody who is mentally unstable and someone who is a known scam artist, then shame on them, and it's a bad look.
Exactly. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to talk about us doing our due diligence. Even if someone's out there saying that they're the type of person, you're supposed to do your research. And I'm telling this to the audience because now I can come out and pretty much tell you guys, before I left again to go to Alexis Butterfly release, these are a lot of things that I went and did and I looked into. So this right here is just some resources. How to become a private investigator. This is some of the things that Jedidiah must do or should have done if he calls himself an investigator. Background check, personal history. Your personal history must indicate that you are a good moral character. Okay. Applicants should not have been dishonorably discharged. That's the military, the background check. Okay, automatic of disqualification. You are not a U.S. citizen. There's another thing that I want to show you guys. What I'm going to be doing is submitting the document to see if he actually have his license. These are some of the things that you guys can do. And I'm showing you this because it's all public information. This is not doxing. It's about teaching the community how to do your due diligence, because anybody can be out there and say anything. But at the end of the day, you're going to be responsible for your actions. I'm just going to be honest. And that's, to the people who follow him unrelentlessly, these are some of the things that you can do just to check, is this person licensed? Is INA actually established properly before you actually give money? And this is for any activist. This is for anybody. Okay. This is how we're going to be able to stop enabling dysfunction and deceit, because we're doing our due diligence, because they're going to put these people in front of us, obviously, regardless, because allegedly he was placed in front of us with Dalton and now placed in front of us with allegedly Harvey. And we're going to get into this. We're going to talk about Harvey next, but I just want to show the audience these things. Okay, you can go right here, illinois.gov, professional license. Okay, so that you have to be a licensed private detective. You have to go to school. You have to have firearm control card or clearance. There's some things that you have to do, and he has not proved 20-hour basic training program. These are the things. So the people around him who's going, and I'm being honest, I'm talking both sides. If you want this man to be good, and that's what I said, we may be having our perspective, and they're like, oh my God, he's a good person, but obviously it's something that's not right with the situation. Because I know, Amir, you have whatever, but at the end of the day, we still know that this person is a human being, you see. So, and he has some, I guess he has some ways that he can help the community if he does it right. So I'm just throwing these things out here because he have people around him, and I'm starting to notice that. I'm looking at the comments and stuff, and they're starting to wake their eyes up and asking him some questions. So if you really care about this man, I think you need to do a background check on him and don't just disregard what we're doing, because we're doing this to protect the community. So Friday, I'm going to be following up with the letter to the license, finishing off the DOJ. And I think, Amir, you said that you wanted to start a petition.
Yeah, I think we'll go ahead and move forward with a petition for the DOJ to censor him if he if he's not an agent or a affiliate of the DOJ. Then we'll let them do their due diligence. But I think we need to have a number of people contact the Department of Justice to let them know about this character, and I think that's already started. Like you did something with a letter, and I love that letter. But I think the more the merrier, and I think we have to do that.
Yes, So I'm down whenever you get it together. The letter, I'm gonna send it out on Friday, and then I'm gonna have a sample on the page, and that is for the public's protection, because Bridgeway now into today, what is going on with Harvey? Your perspective, with his involvement with Clark, a little bit about Hassan. What do you think? Why do you think he stands so strong, and how, that he's doing justice for the people? Could you give us a little bit about that?
Yeah. So the situation in Harvey has been long-term bad leadership. And why there's been long-term bad leadership is, I mean, the community has just been at peril. It hasn't had a break in any way. From being just one of the poorest communities in America, poorest Black communities, and leadership has been challenged for the better part of 20, 30 years. I was a child. I grew up in a community. My mom owned the daycare and directed a daycare in the community. So I remember when the community was beautiful, and it's blight, and it's just, it hasn't been able to recover. Federal investigations, bad police officers shaking down business owners and clubs has been a mainstay for the better part of a decade in Harvey, and that trend continues to this day. So the new mayor, Clark, I mean, we believe that he is probably one of the most corrupt, or one of the more corrupt mayors in the city of this poor, challenged young town. And for me, just seeing the transition of probably mayors in the last 30 years, he might even be the worst when it comes to issues like not allowing people to speak in meetings, having folks arrested, giving homeowners and a flurry of tickets. I mean, I saw one gentleman who was a homeowner who had a stack of tickets, municipal tickets, that I swear to God, the stack was just this thick. And I mean, it's just tragic, and this is a common thing in Harvey. And for me, all of this sends the narrative that, the corruption still exists in the level of Mr. Clark. And the unfortunate thing, and then I'll turn it back over to you, is that, not to be an attorney and to proxy with somebody like a Jedidiah, that's that political piece that we talked about. The political piece was, why are politicians supporting someone who is not an elected official, who's not a certified agent or of the community, third party? I mean, most towns do have third party businesses that support them, attorneys, accountants, that sort of thing. So why in the world would someone like a Jedidiah need to exist in a community that's already been challenged? I mean, they are fresh off of a federal investigation from the FBI less than 7 years ago, whereas they had a federal monitor for police corruption and payoffs and that sort of thing. And I mean, we are aware of that, but it's just a shame. And in conversations, I will say this, and it's the only thing I'll say, conversations with the FBI, I mean, they are aware, and I believe that, even as we speak, I mean, I think it might be getting geared up for them to go back into Harvey, and they should.
Exactly. So what do you think that the people should do? Because there's a lot of issues that's going on with Harvey. And one of the things that and I don't have the clip, it was that he's telling off the residents for not paying their taxes, not being aware, not doing what they're supposed to do. What are some of the things that you think can help the situation as far as the residents?
Well,
Government.
the more that the community comes together, I mean, unfortunately, with a lot of these impoverished communities, you have the same people going down to the meetings, and it's just maybe a good 20 people, maybe 30, and they're the same ones. And the other folks, just because they have to survive, they get to a point to where they just, if it's outside of its vision, they don't want to deal with it. If it's anything that's not, how to pay my bills, put food on my table, and and keep the rent going, they don't want to be involved. But you almost have to engage in community and the community functions to make this thing work. And that's why they need more support on the ground. That's why I decided to try to get involved. And I'm sure that's why you got involved, because it seems like these folks just, and there's a lot of seniors in the community too, just to add that. And with a large portion of seniors, they're not going to be actively engaged, and they're not going to want to rock the boat. They want peace at this stage in their life. And and unfortunately they get taken advantage of a lot.
Exactly. I totally agree with that. I think it do need to be more of a community effort. I'm gonna put this on the screen real quick because this person said, "Hey, Amir and Grace, do you need a man?" I gotta read this real quick. Do you need a man, Grace? And Amir, do you need a woman? Because why are two adults consistently talking about one person every day? Make me understand. Okay. Okay, the reason why we're talking about this particular person and you're seeing a lot of it coming on your algorithm because he's a detriment to the community. Is very important for advocacy. And I think the idea of advocacy is being misconstrued by his misrepresentation. Okay. So, with that being said, we have to make the general public aware of what's going on, what is considered advocacy, what is considered not advocacy. But when you hear me talk, I do say that he have some good things about him that can work. But the thing is about people actually working together. So what we're showing you is a pattern of behavior over the consistent 6, almost close to 20 years of advocacy, of trouble, of manipulation. And these are some of the things we have to talk about from both perspectives. Who's doing it? Is it us? Is it the government? Is it him? It's not always just presenting the mess, but this is real because we need all boots on the ground. So this is a corrective measure as well for Jedidiah. No one wants to see another black brother going to jail or being killed because they don't have no good people around them telling them to behave, learn how to do things a different way. You're causing destruction, especially when you're physically hitting people, when you're doing things out of what law allows you to right in front of us. So this is kind of a reason why. I don't know, Amir, if you want to add a little bit more.
I do, because here's the thing. When it comes to someone who consistently stands in front of the public, we want to call attention, and I would feel the same way. You have every right in the United States in the continent of America to do the same to me. I have every right to do the same to the public officials. I have every right to do the same to the activists, because that's what community is all about. It's about accountability. And yes, as Americans, it is our option. So, if someone is saying that they're a public figure, they're an activist, if someone is calling and putting themselves in the proxy of a position to stand in and activate, and they are not right, and there's been a history of exploitation, then we should be able to call that person out as well. And we don't do enough of that. And that's why people tend to get taken advantage of, because the accountability factor is not there. Now, Kofi God, or whatever your name is, I will entertain one more thing. As far as my personal situation, no, I don't need a woman. And if I did, it wouldn't be none of your damn business either way. So we'll drop the mic right there. Wow.
Okay. Listen, okay, but no, Miss Kofi got another thing you said. This is another thing that we do. We kind of get distracted and off the topic. No one is talking about Kobe or what she's doing. No one's pushing any agenda. We're actually talking about dysfunction and behavior in the community, things that we need to look for and ways to fix it. And this is what throws us off as a community because we don't stay focused. So you got to stay focused on the subject. Okay. We don't do that here. We really, you see what I'm saying? This is another thing. I want you to, and I'm sorry, Miss Kofi God, that's not to call you out. I'm about to play this clip real quick because Amir is going to give us his insight. Someone sent me this clip, 7 phrase fake people use and you need to identify. No shots fired to you, but we have to talk about, you know, how to identify gaslighting and these type of things and protect yourself. You ain't got to go crazy on the person, but you should be aware. So I'm gonna play this real quick and then you could give me your insight.
4 signs you're a good person, even when you doubt it. 1, you feel guilty for hurting someone.
That's about me.
4 signs.
Give me wait, that's about me. Let me stop. Let me pull this up. The wrong one came up, I guess. Give me 1 second. 7.
Hey, Conscious, how you doing? It's good to see you.
Blessings, Conscious. Oh, yes. Blessings, Conscious. Thank you so much for having all of these clips. I've been seeing a few of them. So anything that I use, I will tell you. Thank you for the DJ clip. I'm watching. So you're doing a great job highlighting some things because we have to keep the audience aware. That's why we're doing it. So let me play this one real quick. The other video was about me. Why I'm a good person. Let me stop. I'm just playing, y'all. Shut up. Here we go. All right. So 7 phrases fake people use. Let's
tend to be. Some people wear their masks so long. Not everyone's who they pretend to be. Some people wear their masks so long they forget who they really are. Listen close. Their words will slip. Here are 7 phrases fake people love to use. 1. I'm just being honest. No, they're being rude and calling it honesty. 2. Don't take it the wrong way. They know it's wrong. That's why they said it. 3. You can trust me. Trust isn't spoken. It's proven. 4. I'm not dramatic, but chaos seems to follow them everywhere. 5. You're overreacting. Translation, I won't take accountability. 6. I'd never lie to you. Unprovoked? That's a red flag. 7. I'm different. Real people don't say it. They show it. And here's the truth. Loyalty doesn't scream, it whispers. Watch what they do, not what they say. Follow for more wisdom.
Okay, so I'm sorry, I'm over here writing down at least 4 of them that apply to what Jedidiah say consistently. Amir, you want to add something before I highlight these phrases that he always say?
Yeah, no, you're doing well. I'm gonna let you roll with it.
Oh my God. He said, you're overreacting. Have you ever heard that from someone who gaslight when you're saying something? They're like, no, you're overreacting. That's not the way it is when you literally watched it. And a primary example is what we saw happen to you. We have people coming around saying, it's over. Nothing happened. I'm sitting still. I'm not doing nothing. He's fine.
Right. We conveniently forget about the past, and that's a matter of controlling that narrative and creating a false reality. The reality of the matter is that nothing's over. People have been hurt. People have been harassed. People are upset right now, and people want to activate. They want to see change in the township and starting in these towns, and this is not even, this is before all of us. This has been going on for like 10, 20 years. These communities have been bad. So it supersedes us by far,
Exactly. And that's why we're doing this. We're not overreacting. And that's what people are trying to say. You're overreacting. You're doing too much. But this is literally people's life on the line. This is literally situations. And I'm not going to keep saying that word, but like baby Shemaja. If it wasn't someone like you who were doing something systematically and not doing something to just be on a TV, we probably would never got that report. It probably wouldn't have pushed more things ahead. So I'm really thinking that that's some of the things that we have to focus in on, making sure that we hear what's actually being said and look for signs of gaslighting. Another thing that they said, I'm different. I know I tell y'all I'm spiritually, I do my thing, but when someone keeps throwing, I'm different, I'm the chosen one, doesn't that sound like Hinyard, right? I'm the chosen one, things like that. These are the things that I hear repetitively from someone like Jedidiah. I want you guys to understand that these are signs of gaslighting, okay? Oh, without me, nothing would have happened. That's not collective unity. these things that we're talking about is literally forms of separation, division, and mind control. And
Well,
we
Adolf Hitler talked about uh, the Third Reich, which was supposed to last 300 years, and they were elitists and they were different, and they were the chosen ones, and they were the Aryans, and no one else existed. I mean, again, we see common themes, and again, for me, it's not a level of, I mean, these equally dreadful, but not to the level of a Hitler. And for a lack of better, but I mean, you see the same trends in a lot of these manipulative tactics when it comes to these public people. And unfortunately, you have people who they want to believe it, because for whatever reason they want to have something to believe in, and it's tragic and it's sad at the same time, especially when the traits are there. I left those videos up, Grace, from 7, 8 years ago because I said, you know what if someone comes back and he does this again? So, you'll see all of those videos that I was sharing, and the reason why I was sharing it, now we know why. And
yeah,
I'm glad that I made the decision to leave them up.
yeah, I have them. I have them. I was like, oh wow, these are old. And then I'm like, this is Amir. This 7 years ago. That 1 minute clip, yes, is from your broadcasting page as well. So I'm
Yeah.
gonna be sharing a few of those tonight with you guys. Amir, I know I've been holding you up a lot. One of the things that I know you wanted to get through to the people is a call to action. What is your call to action as far as this situation moving forward? Because people are like, what do you want? What do y'all want from this? And then I'll let you guys, I already let people know what I want, but what do you want to come from this?
Well, well, you know what? And I will respond that, um, the thing about Harvey and some of these impoverished communities is that they still need the attention. We can't forget or let focus off, even though we have distractions. We still have to remember that there are people who need help. Some of these seniors, some of these poor folk, some of these people who they can't eat, they can't pay bills. So we still have to keep that at back of our minds, and that's really what advocacy is all about. And we can't be the cure for everything. The call to action is just to continue. Number one, we talked about the DOJ and that thing with Jedidiah. I think that's very important. So we'll put that as one call to action. The only other one that I would suggest is let's just keep fighting against the corruption in Harvey, and let's see what we can do in order to make a change, in this community, which is, it's just sad and tragic thing. But if we forget about Mayor Clark and some of the bad officials on the ground, then we're not bringing resolution. We're only removing a distraction, but that's going to continue on.
Exactly. So how can the people move forward with getting some done things in Harvey? Like I know they were we were waiting for the Treasury report to go to the comptroller to come back to the town. Did they release that as far as the financials? Because that's some of the things that's happening, but it's being crowded because of what was going on. So have you heard anything about that? And what do you think the people should do to move forward on that one?
Well, the people need to look at the leadership and really, one of the things about leaders is we use that word too generously. We call everybody and everything thing that we want a leader, and everybody doesn't deserve that title. We got to look at our leaders. We got to see if they're qualified. When they act outside of public interest, we got to hold these folks accountable. Let's find out what their platforms are. Maybe some of them we want to support. Maybe some of them we want to say, hey, you're wrong about this, older person Shirley, or older person Delaney Smith. You're wrong when you were out there and you were, trying to protect, the criminal offenders on the ground, or Alderman Tyrone Rogers. Maybe you're wrong about this issue, but I will support you here. Because here's the thing, everything can't be a firefight, because if things get lost in transition. But I mean, if these people are consistently acting outside the public interest, they do need to go. And that's
Exactly.
for sure. They need to go.
And that's writing letters to them, because when you write and you send an email, that's a paper trail. And then forward those things to the people who are over them. if it is not the comptroller, if you have to get in contact with ISP. That's going to be another call to action, guys, because Friday I will not only be following up with okay, I'm actually going to be following up with ISP and, highlighting how they in Harvey, the police possibly have been covering some of these actions. I've been seeing a lot of unlawfulness with what they've been doing. So that's something that I think the residents should do, should write a letter to ISP or internal affairs. There's another division that I'm going to show you on Friday.
Yeah.
And I think that that's some call to actions that we really should focus on.
I'm sorry, can I do one more, please? Because I forgot. And it's something that people don't need to get involved in on a global level unless they want to. But we are asking for the INA and Jedidiah crew, more specifically the ones who were involved in that incident of violence that was perpetrated, not just me and my daughter, but Beth was involved and Ramona and other folks. We want these people banned from any public meetings in the township, and I'm actually working on the township and the south side of Chicago. Because here's the thing, Grace. Anytime somebody shows that they can't be disagreeable without being violently disagreeable, then they're not doing the community any justice. We need to keep those folks, and we need to protect our community, especially when they start becoming chaos agents, or the level of distractions to where it's, you're threatening people, you're harassing people. Let's not let them participate in community engagements and community functions. We need to protect our community better, and that's what I'm challenging the township officials and the mayors of each community in the township to do. And I've started that already, and I'll be speaking about that next week at the township with the supervisor.
That would be good. You need to address that to a few different mayors and reference what's going on in Flint, because I do see that they're not condemning this behavior. They're not coming out and condemning it at all. And I think that's something that's very important, especially at this late stage in Dalton, after what we've seen in Thornton. Something has to be put down when it comes to this, because this is excessive. Okay, guys, I want you guys to know that we don't want to take someone freedom of speech away, freedom to be. But when it becomes abusive, when it becomes crazy, when people's life is on the line, this is when we have to step forward as a community and say, hey, it's enough. You have to
People
stop.
are threatened, people are harassed, because and one thing that I'm not going to quote Jedidiah, but he did say this, and I said it way before he said it, and others have said it. It just takes one crazy person, and it's an oxymoron. It's crazy that he would mention that, but I mean, it takes one person with the wrong mentality, and now you have something like the Emmanuel Church down in South Carolina, when the young man went down there and shot all the people in the church. You have these things that could very much happen with the wrong person with the wrong mentality. We got to be careful about what we put out in the public space.
Exactly. I
Mhm.
totally agree. I'm so grateful that you came. I'm glad that we had a robust conversation. I don't have my phone. Is there anything else that you want to address? What I'm going to do, guys, since it was a great conversation, is about an hour. I'm going to end, and then I'm going to come back later on, and we're going to be talking about the Samaja case and going over all of the clips that I have around 11 p.m. But before that, is it anything else that you would like to put out there? Because that's very important, and I'm going to support that, because
Yeah.
myself, what's going on, in Dalton, I'm afraid about what's going to happen right now as far as.
So, just again, it's very important that we hold the public officials accountable, because I mean, I think that we created a Jedediah. We allowed that type of person to be created, and even with the breadcrumbs and the trail marks, that when Tiffany was there, we didn't agree with everything that she did. Majority of the stuff we didn't agree with, but it was a two-sided story. It was a two-way street. Anytime you have someone standing up in a meeting and calling a woman a bitch, is that right? Is that the correct thing? Should that be allowed by the public officials? And I hold Dowden trustees accountable for that's a great area of judgment. We should have put that. Anytime you got seniors in these meetings, you got children in these meetings. It should be a level of diplomacy. We shouldn't have allowed that. and we should have stopped that then. I think maybe we could have curtailed some of the things that are going on now if we would have just been a little bit more specific about how we proceeded early on. You know what I mean?
Yep, I agree. So with that being said, I'm happy that you were here. I hope the audience see that this was a well-rounded conversation. It wasn't only about Jedidiah, and it's about actually community issues, the dysfunction that goes on around the community issues, what we don't see, what we need to see, and some of the things that we can do to move forward to fix them. We talked about talking about getting in contact with the DOJ. You can talk to the Attorney General and send a letter and complaint if you have some issues about public officials in your area. It's good to put the paper to pen. Everything is not going to always be exciting. We're not going to always be able to make you laugh and entertain. It's really about doing your due diligence and getting the work done. And one more thing, like you said, we are like this as people. And I think we have to expand our horizons, because if we don't, we're going to be caught off guard like a lot of people have been. As you see what I'm saying? Right now, we're so focused on this that we have a national issue going on too, that we can't even begin to hone in because we have a chaos emerald in the middle of this. So we have to eliminate some of the chaos so we can broaden our horizons, start to focus on what resources we have a variety of advocates, because advocacy is a layer. I think it's like a layer effect. We're gonna make a burger, and we all that's how I look at it. Like we're all part of the burger. We put it together, we can eat. But we all have to look at our strengths and move forward on that. Look at the case and what's the actual issue, how to move forward if we're going to do that, and make sure that we have the right credentials and the knowledge behind it. And nobody's going to be perfect. But I think that in the Black community, we look at more entertainment and we don't look at the credentials and what the person has actually done.
Sure. Can I say one thing too? Just
Yeah.
one other thing.
Mhm.
I do want to say to you directly, Grace, and I want to thank people like Conscious and some of the folks who have been on the ground, LNC, and just the folks who have been on the ground, and even like the people who are locally on the ground, like Ramona and Beth, and just so many that I can't even name. But I do want to say, you got a very unfair shake when it came to some of the red flags that you saw early on, and you called those things out, and now those things are just coming around, and now you're being vindicated, right? So I just want to make it known that you are being vindicated in some of the things that you were able to discern early on. I wasn't in the picture, in largely in Dalton, and I was quiet when I saw Jedidiah again, and I said, well, you know what? People change. I'm not going to say anything about him, and I'm going to give him the opportunity to show and prove, you know. But it's very quickly, some of the things that you saw change. And I will say that you were right in some of your instinct and your discernment. So I'm going to suggest that, we continue to support you. I'm going to suggest that you keep your empowerment through God. And I'm going to suggest that, that we recognize you for who you are, and I tell you what, you do a great job, and thank you for your service to the community as well.
Thank you. I appreciate you. I honor you, and I appreciate getting to know you, all of the amazing residents. There's a lot of good people out there, and a lot of them have welcomed me. So I'm grateful that you put that out there. Y'all see me. I'll be in the bushes. I'll be watching. I'll just be waiting for people to receive me. It'll be okay. I don't.
Thanks, Mike. Thanks, Mike, for that. We appreciate that.
Yes, thank you, Mike. I don't hold any grudges, and I'm actually, like I said, everything happened for a reason. We're here today, and I think we all have something to give to this situation.
Mhm.
And it's going to be a beautiful outcome after all of this chaos. But we all have to work together, and the community. You can't just watch.
That's right.
The revolution will not be televised. So with that goes to say, I want to say I love you guys. Thank you, Amir, for being here. You're welcome anytime. We're going to keep this conversation going. And Levi family, I'll be seeing you about 11 o'clock. I have some videos that I want to show you guys of the Samaja case. And I'm going to be highlighting the similarities so you guys can discern deceit. I'm just going to be honest because it's a pattern. So with that being said, I love you. Hit the like button and we'll see you in about 2 hours. Let's put this on the screen. Until then, this is what I got to do.
Hide the money, y'all. There's poor people around. With your broke ass.
I could not be here breathing and be comfortable if I was really as bad as they was making it. You know, nobody could be around me. So for me to be this calm, I must have some kind of inner peace. And my inner peace is knowing that once everybody take the time to really see what type of person I am, you'd be surprised that I stuck around this long.
I have to make the life that I do live as happy as I can and try to do the best with what I have. You know, live the best life I can live, be as happy as I can be. Nothing is perfect for anybody. I don't.
Boys, I swear I think I figured it out. You know why they don't want us redneck brothers and sisters and the hood brothers and sisters getting along? You know why? Because we'd be unstoppable. I'm telling you right now, we would shut shit down.
I want a police report. I don't care who started what. I want a police report to document this incident. This kind of shit, this is the shit he's pulling near my house. Trying to document, but not